allowed me to break away from that idea that every character has one piece of music, and I allowed myself to write pieces of music for their different personalities. And then in season 4, I was able to start drawing those all together, and there's a couple of really complex scenes, like when Kara says goodbye to Lee. He's going to enter the civilian government. And on its surface, it's just these two characters saying goodbye. But the music there is almost operatic, where all 4 of those Starbucks themes are hinted at. It's because what I'm describing is this really complex relationship over years and years of back and forth. And so it was neat to be able to, once I developed all those themes, to be able to use them in really operatic ways. And I think a lot of that goes unnoticed, and it should go unnoticed. I mean, you're watching the scene and enjoying it, but I think on a subconscious level, when you hear those themes associated with the different parts of her personality, that you realize, she's a very complicated woman, and the music can help kind of tie all those personalities together. Long answer for a short question, but there it is.
Thank you very much. Thank all of you for one of the greatest pieces of drama ever.
Yes.
I noticed in the back there were taiko drums, and in the earlier episodes there's taiko.
Yeah, we used a taiko drum once in a while.
How did you get interested in that, and who's playing the opening credit?
The opening credit is played by a group I don't remember their name. They're an LA-based group. We only use them for the opening title. The idea for the taiko drums came from Michael Reimer, who is a producing director who directed the miniseries and really had a huge impact on the creative directing of the show. And he had this idea to use taiko drums during some of the battle scenes in the pilot. And I was assisting composer Richard Gibbs at that point. I was not the sole composer. But then when I took over the show, I really liked that sound, and I expanded the percussion and brought in different kinds of percussion. And it became a huge part of the fabric of the show. But I think at the end of the day, it was probably Michael Reimer's decision to first introduce the percussion sound. He gets the credit for that.
That's so interesting. I always had, personally, I just had an image. I thought you had one of these things, and I just had an image of you playing it at home in your underwear at night.
Well,
you sort of take a little romance away.
I'm sorry, Mike.
I always thought it was Eddie in the background banging on the taco drum.
Yeah, that's what we thought for a while.
My question is for you, Bear. I'm a big fan. I think the Battlestar music is the best series soundtrack I've ever heard for any show. And I read your blog, and I left you a comment saying how my friends did a web series, and they actually used a tidbit from one of the Battlestar songs in one of their episodes. So it was non-profit and everything. Just letting you know, so they don't get in trouble. And also, my brother does handfuls of remix of your Battlestar music. I was wondering how that makes you feel as a composer, knowing that people appreciate your
it's interesting because we live in an era where media is very collaborative. And at first, I will confess, at first it was a little weird. I thought, hey man, you can't take my music and put it in your movie. But ultimately, I think it's really exciting, and I like the fact that people will take a piece of music that they like and remix it and do something else with it. And basically, this is not the official Sci-Fi Channel stance, but basically I feel like, look, you put a credit up there or a link to my website and go for it. Yeah, it's something that I've really embraced, and I think having the blog is just my way of just putting my own, having my spin on my music out there, so that if my music ends up in all these different things, people can always come to my blog, and at least there's the way I wrote it, but that's not necessarily where it's going to end up going. And I do think with the concerts and the CDs and just the way music gets stuck in your head, music is something that lives outside of the show. And I know, the score, I only wrote it to function in the show. I never thought about doing concerts. I never thought about soundtrack albums or these other uses. But it's exciting that part of the show can live on in the same way that the Stu Phillips theme from the original Battlestar lived on. And I think was a big part of the reason that we even got to do a show, because people loved that theme, and it was a little earworm, So that's a fun part of being a musician.
The creators of that show are such fans that one of them actually won the Resurrection tubs at the auction.
Wow.
And he keeps them in his backyard.
Awesome, good for you.
So, Bear, if you had a choice of all your pieces that wouldn't have on next to films, what would you like?
Oh, I don't know. It's weird. The pieces that I like the best are not the ones that are the fan favorites. The pieces that my favorite was the ending of Revelations, when I got to write this really beautiful choral piece. It was something that was so symphonic and lyrical and gorgeous, plus the fact it was this total sucker punch, because it was setting up this jubilant celebration, and 60 seconds afterward, bam! No, we're not going to end on a good note on this episode. But, you know, I don't know. I honestly, Kevin, I don't think about it. If you sit there and think about it, I'm going to write a piece of music, it's going to endure through the ages. Trust me, you just sit there like with the blank page, so to speak. So really, I just focus on telling the story and then seeing what happens.
Hi, I'm here on a research trip. I'm developing a course with a professor of art history on what we're calling smart TV. One of the things that we knew when we even first started thinking about this, we're definitely going to teach Battlestar. Because I already do in theory courses about, you know, race, about theology. I teach at the University of Utah, which makes it interesting.
Now you're really in the wrong room.
For the other university. Anyway, but my question is, what are the things that we're looking at is models of authorship and how different it is to create a narrative and create characters, how much more multiple it is in a television show. And what I would like to ask is, what would you want students to know about your role in creating narrative, creating the look, creating character as authors, including those of you who are authors?
Well, that, you know, it's an interesting question. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of people, I think it may go to the sort of, you know, the heart of the issue of the collaborative nature of television, which we talked about before. And yet, you know, within that collaborative realm, there's a lot of individual effort. And what I think was most interesting about my couple years on Battlestar, from a writer's point of view, is I came into it the thing that was already, you know, a world that is largely created. But within that, you know, every writer had a chance to change the world. I mean, because that was sort of what kept the show fresh for all of us, is what could you come up with that was new, that no one that is a surprise to yourself and to everyone else. And in that sense, there really is a genuine sense of authorship. I mean, you really feel that you get to tell stories that are meaningful to you as well as to the show. And the writers are all supported in their efforts to write distinctively in their own voices, their own stories. So I think, you know, some people looking at television also sort of, you know, hope that there is, it's almost like, hopefully there's a sort of this sort of group kind of effort going on, that it really is a team work, a team effort, and it very much is to it, but it also very much is a chance for, you know, individual writing. And in the end, it's all those shows you liked were truly written by one person, you know, show by show. Someone wrote an episode and sat in a room and did it on their own. So that sense of authorship is real, and ultimately, I mean, for people thinking of moving into that business or into this creative world, you do ultimately have to grapple with that you are going to be in a lone room. Even if you are part of a vibrant world that has been created by a group of people, you're going to have to be contributing your own piece and on your own.
As writers and individuals, was there a competition trying to out-twist each other, out-screw the cheat each other? You know what I mean? It's like, obviously you want to come up with and have a script that everybody goes, wow, that's really badass.
I was always trying to write the best dialogue for the chief so then he wouldn't say it. That was always my plan. So I knew the better the stuff I could give him, the less of it he would say. So, and he'd be right, you know, and then I'd go back and say, what's the point of writing dialogue? What does it mean anyway? Who actually talks?